everyone, it's Emily. Welcome back on my channel. Today's video is going to be all about my February wrap-up, so basically talking about the books that I have read this month. This month I have read 13 books, which is crazy. 3 of them were ebooks and then there is these 10 right here, and even though it was a high number, I feel like I read a lot of not so great books this month. I don't know if it's because I had challenged myself to read like some romance books because it was February. Although I did read quite a bit of fantasy anyway because that's just what I do. I literally read as many books that I gave a 1 or 2 stars in 1 month than last year in 5 months that I was on booktube, which... So yeah, I don't know if I can call this a good month. Probably not, so not a very good month reading wise. So let's talk about them. I started the month on a good note. I read My Lady Jane by Cynthia Henn, Brody Ashton, and Joni Meadows, and this is a historical fiction retelling of My Lady Jane story. If you don't know, she was queen for 9 days, spent most of those days in prison, and then got killed. And the authors wanted to give her like a better life story, and it was so much fun. If you like Princess Bride type of book, this is definitely something that you will like. There's like some shape shifting and super fantasy, and it follows in the beginning kind of close-ish to the story, and then it just goes on a tangent. They even tell you at one point that like at this point we're not following history at all, and it was a lot of fun. I gave it like 3.5 stars. It was enjoyable. I enjoyed myself. I liked it, and I would definitely recommend it if it's something that seems intriguing to you. It is pretty big, but I just flew through it, and I really like the cover. Next, I read A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin, which this is my second time reading one of her books. I absolutely love The Last of Evan. If you like sci-fi, like changing things in life, how it affects, like if you try to change part of the world in the past, does it change like the future type of thing? That was such a bad explanation, but very interesting book for sure. So I really wanted to read this. This is like a YA fantasy book where someone goes to school and then learns magic, which that seems amazing, but this was so not for me. It was a really short book. There's like 185 pages, but it just felt like it was like 500 plus pages of like nothing that was interesting to me. I've basically discovered that I'm really not into those type of magical system where it's like super vague and like you're not really explaining it at all. It's just random words and like random... Basically, it's just not for me. Plus in this book, there's years that pass by like in one sentence, which I'm not into it. So unfortunately, this wasn't for me. I DNF'd the series 2. If you haven't seen it, I did do a video where I talked about DNF books and series, and this one was in there, and this reminded me so much of the writing which the writing was good, by the way. It's just that the magic system really wasn't for me, which reminded me a lot of this one. This is Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and so many people raved about this YA fantasy standalone, which fantasy standalones are so rare, and so many people love this one and really didn't like it. I had started it in November and I finally decided to DNF it officially at page 240. It wasn't for me. Again, magical system, super vague. Didn't like the love interest at all. It just seemed pretty abusive. And I hate whenever someone starts to learn magic and in 2 seconds they're stronger than the strongest magician alive. Like, just doesn't make sense to me. So DNF this one, and this one I gave a 2 stars. Actually, 2 of them I gave a 2 stars because really wasn't for me. But if you have read one or the other, definitely recommend that you read the other one because you will definitely enjoy it, but just really wasn't my cup of tea. But I can definitely appreciate the writing. At this point, I was in desperate need for a pick-me-up because I was feeling the reading slump coming up, because in January I didn't really have such a great reading month, and then this was not looking so bright, so I decided to read the 3 ebooks of like Harry Potter, like the Pottermore series, and loved the first one, which I'll include the pictures right here, where you learn more, for example, about Lupin's, how he became a werewolf, and then there's a lot more about McGonagall, which she's one of my all-time favorite characters in there, so definitely loved learning more about her past and how she became like McGonagall that we see in the books. So definitely recommend the first one for sure. The second one I also, the first one I gave 5 stars, by the way. The second one I read where you learn more about like the history of like the ministers and stuff. It was definitely interesting. There was a few bits that I really did enjoy. I gave it a 4 stars, although a bit short. Same thing with the third one, which is about Hogwarts. And this is probably the closest thing, unfortunately, that you'll be able to read about Hogwarts in history. I really want to read that book, seriously. But again, give it a 4 stars. I enjoyed it. A little short, but definitely I think if you love that universe, you will enjoy those. It definitely worked as a pick-me-up. I felt a lot better. I read all of them in like 1 or 2 days, so definitely a great way to motivate yourself. So I picked up the next book, which is Steelheart by Brandon Sanderson. This is his YA fantasy series where you're basically following people that are called epics, and they basically have superpowers, but they're not superheroes. They're more like supervillains, but the superpowers are so interesting. Like people that can't die, but like every superpower also comes with a weakness that you don't necessarily know, but you have to find out, which is what the Reckoners, basically the title of the series, are doing. They're trying to kill the epics, and the first person that they want to kill is Steelheart, which is basically the super villain. So as always, a magical system, premise, world building, always amazing with Brandon Sanderson. But I didn't really like the main character. I feel like it was really annoying, and I kind of felt like the author was like trying to be that character that is like super awkward, bad with girls, and didn't really like the love interest there at all. And I hated the fake swear words. Like if books have like swear words that are just not in from our universe, just once in a while, I don't mind it, I understand. But in this one, it was constantly in 1 pages. Like there was like half a page and there was like all 3 of them that I just couldn't stand. It's like Swans, there's Calamity, and there's Sparks. I don't know, at one point it was just starting to annoy me and I was like counting them because I just couldn't stand it. But overall, I did enjoy it. I definitely still prefer the Mistborn trilogy, but I did like it enough that I want to continue. I'm curious to see where it's gonna go. And as always, Brandon Sanderson, he always has like super amazing endings. So if you were into YA fantasy, definitely give this one a shot. At this point, I was like, you know what, Emily, it's time for you to try and read about romance. And the first one was a hit, like a hit. And I read A Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. I had heard so many great reviews about this. Either way, I give this a 3.5 again, forgot to say. In this book, you're following a young princess that is supposed to be married to a prince, but on the day of the wedding, she decides to just run away because she's not interested in that wedding. And she is being followed by 2 men, the prince that she was supposed to marry and the assassin that is sent to kill her. And throughout the book, you don't know who is who, which was so intriguing. It's definitely romance heavy. Like, you know, some books are like fantasy with a little bit of romance. This one was definitely romance with some fantasy, but it did work for me. This is definitely the best romance that I read this month, easily. So if you were into that, I definitely recommend it. I don't like usually romance, especially a cheesy one, but this one, for some reason, totally worked for me. I'm almost done with the second one, so it's probably gonna be my next month wrap up, but I'm enjoying it so far. I give it 4.5 stars. Last year I read Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, and it didn't work out for me, but I kept being told that I needed to read more of her books, give more of a chance for, I don't know, to her writing, which in her defense, the writing is fine. I have literally no issue, but this was probably the creepiest, not supposed to be creepy book. I've read You by Carolyn Kepnes last year, which is super creepy, like stalker-ish book. And this one was like the not supposed to be creepy version of it, like literally stalker-ish creepy stuff. This is Attachments by Rainbow Rowell. You're following Lincoln, a 28-year-old guy that is basically described as a complete loser. He is super socially awkward, he lives with his mom, you know, she makes his lunch and stuff like that, and during the weekend sometimes he'll play a Dungeons and Dragons. He's still completely hung up on his high school sweetheart, and they broke up like 9 years ago, so he's still stuck in there. And he works as a IT person that just goes through emails that are flagged because some words or things like that are being used, and basically reads emails of 2 people, 2 girls that are friends, and he stalks them like that. And then things get even worse. Turns out Lincoln is actually really tall, and he's actually muscular, and he's actually hot. And he actually has multiple degrees. Like, really? Come on. Like, it just... right there, I was like, you know what? This is not working for me. And then there's a romance that starts, and that was a complete fail. I just really didn't like the ending. So this is one of those books that I actually gave a 1 star, which I never do. Give it a 1 star. Do not understand the hype. This was really, really creepy. Like, so easily it could have been like categorized as horror book. Like, so easily. So, unpopular opinion apparently, but no. If someone did that to me, I would not react the same way as she did. Like, not at all. Like, next I tried to read a book that so many people love, and I liked it, but I don't feel like I loved it as much as everybody else. I read The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, and this is a very difficult book to describe because there's a lot of back and forth. Most of it is happening in like the 1800s, and you're following a circus that is called Le Cercle des Rêves, and there's basically a challenge between two magicians. There's somewhat of a love story in there. It's definitely slow-paced, character-driven type of story. The writing was stunning. Again, if you like the writing of these two books, this is definitely something that you will love. Unfortunately, I just ended up being a little bit bored. And I don't know if it's because I was such in a slump already, so it might not be the fault of the book. I definitely enjoyed it. I gave it a 3.5, I believe, so it's really not a bad rating for me. Anything that is over a 3 is definitely good. I just didn't love it as much as everybody else. I feel like sometimes books are so hyped up that you have really high expectations and then they don't always, you know, live up to them. The next book is something, once again, super well loved on BookTube, and I really, really wanted to love it. Like, I really did. And again, love story. I read A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. This is basically retelling-ish of like Beauty and the Beast, and a lot of people were saying how it's like Bella Swan trying to act like Katniss Everdeen, which I definitely understand. Basically changed the vampire for fairies. That's pretty close. I wouldn't necessarily say this is why. Maybe it's like more like new adult. There's definitely some like steamy cringy sex scenes, like really cringy. I was really trying to like focus on the world building because I always love fantasy, but this ended up not working for me because of the romance. It just, even the like more fantasy like action-packed scenes were just not that crazy. I am planning on reading the second one because everyone wants me to, and everyone says, you know, it's so much better, so I will, but this was so disappointing. Not a spoiler whatsoever, but like at one point, the last sentence in one of the chapters where there's like romance, she literally says, I literally had to update on Goodreads whenever that happened. Literally, it reads, "It was the happiest moment of my life." After the page like 150, it started being really, really cringy, like overly cheesy. I literally said a few times out loud, oh, come on, like, come on. So yeah, that's, yep. I give it 2 stars, and we'll read a second one, but oh, we're not done. I decided, you know what? I haven't read enough romance. Let's try again. So I decided to read The Rose and the Dagger by Renée Allier, and this is the second book in a duology. The first one was The Wrath and the Dawn, which this was basically a retelling of 1001 Night, and this is basically the follow-up where there is more action. And the ending was actually not bad, but I think at that point I was so pissed from all the like romance-ish that I had been reading and not liking that. So even though the ending wasn't bad, I ended up resenting the book a lot because the first three quarters, every time someone meets the main character, all they say is that she's so pretty, but seriously, she's pretty. Like, Shahzad is so beautiful. Like, she's pretty, she's beautiful. She has a really bad temper and constantly says the wrong thing to everyone, but she's pretty. So, yeah. Yeah, 2 stars. Almost done. One more book that I've read this month. This one was definitely much better than a lot of the ones that I've read, but it ended up not being super memorable. I read The Nest by Cynthia de Puig-Sweeney, and this is a contemporary family story, so I was like a little done with romance, so I decided to try this one, which, by the way, the cover, absolutely beautiful. Like I said, following a family that is supposed to receive the money from their dead father, and there's a lot of drama in there, and it wasn't bad, but it just really wasn't memorable. I did like, however, how everything happens in New York, so if you have any books that all happens in New York that is really, really good, let me know, because I'm realizing that I really like to read books from that setting in contemporary books, so let me know if you have any favorites, but this one I ended up giving a 3 stars. It was okay, definitely much better than a lot of the books that I've read this month, but it just, I know that in a couple of years I will not remember it. So that's it, guys. Those are the 13 books that I have read this month. So even though I've read 13, I feel like there's like 5 of them that are between 1 and 2 stars. yeah, rough month. Let's hope that next month is much better. Otherwise I can just feel the reading slump like so bad right now. So that's it, guys. I hope you don't resent me too much for bashing some really popular books. Let me know if you have the same opinion, different opinions on any of these books. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and to subscribe, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.